So now let's talk about a very important topic. Can we benefit the dead once a person dies? Is there any way that we can benefit him? So generally speaking, what we know is that account of a person's deeds, it is sealed when he dies. So we have a lot of evidences from Quran and Sunnah that a person has this record of good and bad deeds, and once the person soul is about to be taken, that account is closed. And for example, if we look in Surah Yunus, where it was talking about Firaun in verse 90, that until when drowning overtook him, Firaun said, I believe that there is no deity worthy of worship except the Lord of Musa or the children of Israel, and I am amongst the Muslims. Firaun said that. But he said that at a time when his soul was about to depart from the body. So that is why it is not accepted. So that was a good deed what he did, but the time was too late. Firaun died as a non-Muslim. So, and we also see from Quran and Sunnah that a person gets what he earned, or whatever his good deeds were, he gets of what he earned, not because other person good deeds or bad deeds will affect him. We have this in verse from Surah An-Najm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَن لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى, and there is not a man except that for which he strives. So that is any good or bad action that a person does, that is the earning of that person. That is the earning of that person. So others cannot affect him, generally speaking. But now we have some exceptions. But before we get into exceptions, let's talk about what are the benefits that a person can get after his death. This benefit that we're talking about can be in any form. Maybe it can be in the form of protection from the punishment, and it includes both the life in the grave and life in the hereafter, from hellfire. Or it can even, when we go into paradise, our levels in paradise can get raised. So that's a benefit again. And when we're talking about benefit, all of us, there are two people that we usually think about. First is ourselves, that how we want to know how after we die can benefit ourselves. And the other thing is that we have our loved ones, they died already. You want to do something for them. What can we do to benefit them? So, general rule is that we cannot benefit the dead. We cannot benefit ourselves after our death, and also we cannot benefit others after they are dead. That's a general rule, but there are exceptions to it. So what are these exceptions? So we're going to talk a lot about these. But the example I want to give that, whatever exception we are quoting, we need to have an evidence for it. Like for example, if I say that we have this parking spot in the masjid, this side of the building, we want to say that this particular spot or area, this can only be parked by an imam of the masjid, or maybe a person who is more than 60 years old, a senior citizen. So that's the rule set by the masjid. That's a general rule. Now, if a person comes and parks the car, and if you ask him, why did you park the car? You're not over 60, you're not an imam. So he will say probably, I have diabetes or hypertension, high blood pressure, so that's why I parked. So is that a valid reason for him? That is not, because that was not one of the exceptions stated by the management. Even though he would try to make some similarity that, I am a little bit, sick and so on, but that doesn't meet the conditions set by the masjid. So the general rule is that, you cannot park. So same thing, in usul al-fiqh, when a prohibition has been given, that will always take precedence over everything, unless you have a small domain, small area of exceptions that's specified by the text. So you cannot come up with your own ideas, with your own interpretation that, this is also valid, this is also okay. This is the job of the scholars. They make all the exceptions based on Quran and Sunnah. And when we talk about these exceptions, this can be both benefit and harm, not just the benefit. So a person can get harmed after his death. So there are basically four things that we can, four categories for benefit or harm that we can think about. One is obviously things that benefit a person, and other things that can harm. But there are also some things which people believe benefits, but they do not benefit. It's common, bid'ah. People just come up with their own interpretation. And also some people think that there are few things that will harm the dead person, but in reality it doesn't. So what are these things? What proof do we have when we say that these are the things? So let's look into those right now. But before we get into it, there are three categories when we are saying you want to benefit the dead. We can benefit the dead by different ways. So first one, his own actions, meaning that a person, if he wants to benefit himself, he must have done some action. He must have had done some action when he was alive. Because of that action, now he's getting benefited. And what are those actions? We will give a list of those things after this one. But second one is that a person can get benefited by others' actions. So that person who is dead is not doing that action, others are doing, but he is getting the reward, he is getting the benefit out of it. So the second and third are basically the same thing, where the difference is that in the second case, you are specifying that, I want the benefit or the reward to go to this particular dead person. And third one, you don't. You just do this action and automatically the reward or benefit will go to the dead person. So let's start listing them. I compiled a list of actions that can benefit or harm the dead person. I made sure that everything I quote is from Quran and Sunnah. Nothing is da'if or fabricated hadith, weak hadith. So anything that I'm going to put it up, I'll give evidence for it, inshallah.